Welcome, new future builders. This is my response to Simon Sinek's video. So if you haven't heard or seen, it's a clip more so than a video. This is also about principles of managing people and dealing with people and understanding people. So if you want to really think about how to handle people of all types, you got to think of the principles. Let me backtrack, because this is a reshoot. Actually, I did this video right before New Year's. I was going to post this as the first video of 2017, but I decided not to start the year off with a rant. And again, I'm trying to avoid ranting so much as in just giving my take. By the way, this is not a reflection of the last two videos that have been about me sharing my opinion. This is something I was already gonna go ahead and talk about. A good buddy of mine, a good guy, great channel, great content, Keith Garcia over at Welcome Home. Check him out if you know him. He went ahead and talked about this as well. So I talked about it first. Sorry, Keith. I talked about this first. I just never posted it. So here I am going to finally talk about this again. And again, I can kind of take a new take to it. Now, if you haven't seen the clip, Simon talks about millennials. If you guys didn't know, not to age myself completely, I'm a millennial. I own it. I'm proud of it. I'm okay with it. Me, Justin Morgan, am a millennial. And so I have a certain opinion on the video. Not that I disagree with every point that he has. I mean, there's one thing to talk about the cell phone case. I can agree with that. We have an issue with cell phones. We even have an issue with being sociable. I think some of us do because of cell phones. That has limited some of us, not all of us, but some of us. Okay. Is it an addiction? As he says in the video. In some ways, yes. And the thing is, I don't like to just say that specific to millennials, because that is also now sprouting out to other generations. As I've seen kind of as time has gone by, when it first started with cell phones, really you just saw millennials with them at dinners, at functions, etc. But now I'm starting to see the other generations, the baby boomers, like the Gen X, the others, really using them now. I'm seeing them at dinner more. I'm seeing them at gatherings more. I'm seeing them being tethered to their phone more. It's not just us. It's not just the millennials now. It's a wider spread conversation. So I just don't, he isolated the millennials. So we're going to feel a certain way. I just want to make a point that in kind of the wider concept, before you go judging people based off of their generation, realize there are a lot of us out here that we're human beings. We're the same. So before you go judging anybody, realize that there's a certain system that applies to everybody. So let me make my case in point. I'll make it around a couple of issues. One is the work issue, which he brought up, which was we're not patient in the workplace for some reason. And there's the issue of managing millennials. That's the second thing I want to discuss, and why I don't agree. I agree at the same time. I want to add some different perspective to what he said. Respectfully, Simon is a excellent person, excellent content, plenty to learn from. So this is in no way or means an attempt to disrespect what he said. It's just me to give a different take. First off, the idea that millennials are impatient, that we are whiny, that we are soft, that somehow when we get to places of work, we feel entitled. Everyone on every generation has someone who feels entitled. And so I'm sure there are many millennials who feel entitled, but I'm sure there are people from other generations who also feel entitled. And that comes in the form of people being lazy because they don't feel like they should have to work if they get paid a certain amount, or they just they leave their job, right? We're not the only ones. But the reason that many of us may seem entitled, we get into these jobs, we start complaining about how boring they are, how meaningless the work is because we have more options. Again, the principle of economics is supply and demand. It's an access thing. Years and years and years ago, with no internet, with no social media, without all these millions of job sites and these stories, you felt pretty isolated in your job. The only way you knew about other positions if you talked to friends and family in the news, right? And you pretty much only had it outside in view. But now with everybody communicating constantly, you understand other options. So why do you go to the job and not deal with a bad job, a boring job, a bad boss, a bad work environment? Why are you not willing to go there and work for something you don't care about? Because there are more options. Again, principle is in play. The market for jobs and labor is more competitive. While they say there are less jobs available, we must understand that there's more transparency in what's available. There are companies that are stepping up their game, that are creating meaningful positions, meaningful chances. There are companies that are being more socially conscious in how they run their things. So therefore, there's more options for us. And so don't get mad at us because we want to take action on those options, because we don't settle for companies that are mediocre, because we don't want to work for bosses who don't respect us, because we don't want to work environments that don't suit us. That's something that everybody should have. That's a standard that everyone should have. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go to a job and just because it's hard, not because it's not perfect, that you should quit immediately. No, what I'm saying is if a job is what it is and it's not up to the standards of that person, you cannot get mad at them or surprised that they look for other opportunities, that have more competition, have other opportunities out there. You can't get mad at them for that. And you surely can't label a whole generation just because our market is different than the one that you had. See what I'm saying with that one? Again, the principle is the same. Supply and demand. Our supply is bigger. Our supply is wider. Our supply is more diverse. And our supply is of higher quality. So therefore, that's why we demand more from the workplaces and the spaces that we live in. Because we can. Purely because we can. Others may not have had that opportunity. So before I ramble too much on that point, second point, the fact that we have to be this. So at my current job, there's a course for managing millennials. There's a course by itself about managing millennials because we're these strange aliens that can't be handled. We're mysterious. We need to give a key to the lock. But in reality, though, we're all people. Millennials are just like you. Baby boomer, Gen X, whatever generation you come from. The principle of human beings are consistent. We want to do something we care about. Does that matter of age? No. Again, this is coming from the previous point. The difference is, we work somewhere and we take situations based off of the cost, the trade-off. We realize that there are more options. Again, I just said that. We realize that we can now travel the world instead of working a boring job and live off of it. You, as in those who aren't of the millennials, may not have had that realization. Again, if that doesn't apply to you, great. But I'm saying that you may not have had that available to you. Again, our options are wider. All we're saying is, like any employee, you want to work somewhere where people value you. You want to do something that matters. You want to get paid something that helps you live. And you want to be and have experiences with people that help you grow. That sounds fairly standard. That sounds fairly principled. And so if you're mystified by how to manage millennials, it's the same principle as anyone else. You create rapport. You understand what they want. You understand what makes them tick. You understand what makes them happy, what makes them frustrated. You understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Maybe they don't socialize as well, but perhaps they're very good with technology. As in any tech person, whether we are millennial or not, probably had the same characteristics. How did you figure that out? You talked to them. You tested them. You see what mattered to them, what they were good at, what they hated, what they loved, what they were weak in. You figured it out. It didn't require some special managing class for you to figure that out. You had one, but it wasn't specific to the generation, I'm sure. So that's what I mean. The principles are the same. So no matter what age of person you're dealing with, what generation, what year, what realm, what space, ultimately, the core things are the same when handling people. You understand them. You understand what they care about. You understand their values. And then you find strategic ways to align their efforts, their strengths, and their weaknesses with those values, setting them up for success so that way they can deliver the most value to you, your mission, your company, and the rest of your workforce. That goes for everyone. So before you go down the path of needing a special class, just for us, make sure you got the principles. But that's all. That's all I got. Yeah, that's my rant. Hope I didn't get too crazy there. Again, this is all because hopefully you got something from this, and I just needed to share it. Making sure that not just that millennials, I don't want us to get a completely bad rap, but I also don't want anyone to lock their mind in that they have to look at someone a certain way because of their age or their generations or from their culture, or where they came from, what time they grew up in. Don't lock your mind into some impossible situation that you can't figure out. Like you don't think that you can handle someone or something. Don't lock yourself in. That's what I got. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the effort. I will see you all next time. Share this with a friend, a family member, or, you said it, foe, and make sure that you join the movement, hitting the subscribe button as usual. As usual. Treat each day as a building block to a better future. Peace.